It's the beginning of the end.
I'm gonna kill you.
Good luck. You'll need it.
Umbrella's more powerful than ever. And we're the only ones who can stop them.
Hi. Waiting for a written invitation?
Sweet ride.
Oriental Watch Company Take Your Time presents Watchful Sunday, Resident Evil, Retribution, Sunday night at 9:30 on Pearl. Oriental Watch Company Take Your Time presents Watchful Sunday, Resident Evil, Retribution.
佢打我又打，大家都冇唔舒服。
我哋打過流感針，依家都打咗新冠疫苗啦。
我聽醫生話，就算有病同埋長期食藥，只要冇乜大礙都可以打。
使乜驚啊？呢個年紀中咗新冠，得咗重症，咪重大件事。
一樣要打針，喺飲茶見到孫仔。
我哋打咗啦，老友記，你都快啲打啦！
Indulge in the taste of Italy with a harbour view of Hong Kong. It's fine dining with a twist. Embark on a yoga journey to channel your inner power with this workout class. Home in on the intricacy of these jade carvings and let the artwork tell its stories. Do you know what it takes to make success a reality? Discover actionable tips from this professional who's done it. Thursday night, Dolce Vita at 9 on Pearl.
Consular and diplomatic officers in Hong Kong will be subject to tighter quarantine measures from November 12th. 5 people arrested on suspicion of using a fake version of the Leave Home Safe app at Immigration Tower. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson pulls no punches about the threat posed by climate change at COP26. Good evening and thanks for joining us. Starting on November 12th, consular and diplomatic officers in Hong Kong will be subject to tighter quarantine measures. This comes with the government making extra efforts to keep a lid on imported COVID cases. Essential cross-border workers, including drivers, air and ship crew members, will still enjoy isolation-free privileges. Under current arrangements, 48 categories of workers have been allowed quarantine-free travel. That's about to be drastically whittled down to 8. Among those being stripped of their privileges are consular and diplomatic staff. Instead of self-isolating at home, they will have to be quarantined in hotels after entering the city. But consuls general and representatives at equivalent or higher levels could choose to self-isolate at home.
We actually had 2 cases in which the consular staff all their family members were infected. And because the possibility of the Delta virus being so unpredictable and spreading the disease even stronger, we have to do what is necessary.
Those who will still enjoy the exemption include essential cross-border drivers and air crew. That's in addition to cargo ship workers that haven't docked in high-risk regions 21 days before their arrival and government workers traveling in an official capacity. Chief Secretary for Administration John Lee didn't directly respond to questions as to whether Beijing officials such as those working for the liaison office would be exempt. He underscored these tightened measures would hopefully facilitate talks on border reopening with the mainland. In response, the U.S. consulate says it appreciates the ongoing efforts of the SAR government to address public health concerns, but to improve predictability for the business environment, it urges the administration to consider formulating a roadmap for reopening Hong Kong to international travelers. Media reports quoted Executive Council member Regina Ip as saying the SAR government should not espouse a servile attitude and not be afraid of offending foreign countries. The Leave Home Safe app became mandatory at most public facilities today, but some people are reluctant to follow the rules. At least 5 people have been arrested for allegedly using a fake app to avoid tracking, including civil servants. Jonia reports.
Defying the new Leave Home Safe app mandate by dishonest means being arrested. Today, 5 people, including public officers, are facing the consequences for doing so. One of them is an audit department employee and 2 others are staff members of the immigration department. The 4 males and 1 female were caught while entering the immigration tower in Wan Chai this morning. They used a fraudulent app to check in at the location instead of the official Leave Home Safe app, now mandatory at most public facilities. Staff at the immigration department reported the case to the police. Officers then arrested the 5 on suspicion of using a false instrument. We learned that the arrested used an app called Back Home Safe that comes with an identical logo to the official one. But it does not require QR code scanning. Instead, users can enter the name of their locations as they like. The copycat, rolled out about a year ago, highly resembles the real app in its layout. Still, you can distinguish it from the real one by the smaller font sizes and different positioning of the Leave button. Staff at the immigration department are believed to have received training on identifying the counterfeit app. Elsewhere, mandatory checking in with the Leave Home Safe app is being enforced at most public facilities across the city, including public libraries, hospitals, and wet markets. Many elderly, like Madam Chow, are troubled by the new rule. She says even though her son helped her install the app, she still doesn't know how it works. In fact, exemptions apply to residents younger than 12 or those over 65, as well as the disabled. But they need to provide their contact and part of their ID number. Staff will call to verify the phone number. Chief Secretary for Administration John Lee admits it takes time for the public to adjust to the new order.
All we try to do is to ensure that overall we have an effective strategy to do contact tracing and to ensure that we can, at the first instance, be able to catch whoever who may be infected or subject to that risk.
He says authorities will take action against those defying the order, especially civil servants. Dong Yang-ye, TVB News.
The city today reported 1 new imported case of COVID-19 involving a 56-year-old aircrew member arriving from Saudi Arabia. The man, fully vaccinated with BioNTech jabs, was found to carry the L452R mutant strain. Meanwhile, the government will soon announce details of the arrangement for COVID booster shots for targeted groups. Kate Long tells us more.
Last week, the scientific committees under the Center for Health Protection recommended that the government offer booster shots to targeted groups of people. Secretary for the Civil Service Patrick Nip, who is in charge of the citywide vaccination scheme, said the government is following up on the recommendation. He's hoping to announce details of the arrangements later this week, adding that booster shots could be offered in mid-November at the earliest. According to the experts' recommendation, the targeted groups include people aged above 60, healthcare workers, those working high-risk jobs, chronic disease patients, and people with weakened immune systems. Nip also said the city still has some 1.7 million doses of the BioNTech vaccine in stock. He urged those who haven't been vaccinated to do so as soon as possible. But those who wish to be inoculated should check on the opening hours of the vaccination centers. Starting from today, the operating hours of the 21 community vaccination centers will be shortened. They will be in service between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. on Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, and will be closed on Wednesdays. As for weekends, the opening hours will remain from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Caleb Leung, TVB News.
Shanghai Disneyland and Disneytown remains closed today and tomorrow for epidemic prevention and control. Entry to the theme park was suspended late yesterday afternoon after a COVID patient visited the facility on Saturday. All guests had to leave the premises and they were tested upon their exit. They are required to get tested again 24 hours later. So far, no one has tested positive. Those who visited the theme park over the weekend have to get tested 4 times and undergo 2 days of quarantine. Overseas, Australia relaxed its international borders restrictions today. Some 14 million Australians in Victoria, New South Wales and Canberra are now free to travel abroad. More than 80% of people 16 and older in those 2 states and the Capital Territory are fully vaccinated, a condition for the resumption of international travel. Fully vaccinated Australians and permanent residents living overseas may also return to the country without quarantine. Unvaccinated travelers will still face quarantine restrictions, and all travelers need proof of a negative COVID-19 test prior to boarding. Fully vaccinated New Zealand tourists may also enter Australia from today. Meanwhile, Thailand substantially reopened its borders to vaccinated foreign tourists today. Fully vaccinated tourists from 63 countries and territories, including China and the U.S., can now fly into Thailand. They must take a COVID test upon arrival and then spend 1 night in a designated hotel while they await the result. If their test is negative, they are free to leave and enjoy their stay. Those from countries outside the list can still enter, but must undergo a lengthy quarantine period and frequent testing. Elsewhere, from today, South Korea will scrap all operating hour restrictions on restaurants and cafes. Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida led his ruling Liberal Democratic Party to an unexpectedly strong majority in lower house elections. James Aikut reports.
Fumio Kishida expressed gratitude to the nation today for re-electing his party, pledging to work hard on economic and emissions reforms for his country. I believe the nation expects us to build the future for the country. I will work even harder, he said during a press conference. Kishida's conservative Liberal Democratic Party lost some seats but defied predictions and held on to its single-party majority Sunday. The win solidifies his position as head of the fractious party and gives him a stronger hand in the powerful lower house of parliament. Some had feared Kishida would become another one of Japan's short-term prime ministers. But the election results eased market fears, and analysts say he will be able to put his own stamp on policies and push through legislation ahead of an upper house election next summer. Voters are taking the results in stride. Pretty much as I expected, said this office worker, who did not vote for Kishida's party. He said he thought the LDP would face more impact from its handling of the coronavirus pandemic. I'm not happy about the results. I wonder what the voters were thinking, said this retiree. Kishida's weeks-old government has been grappling with an economy battered by the coronavirus and regional security challenges. He's pledged to double defense spending to 2% of GDP in a bid to deter China's growing regional assertiveness and counter growing military technology in other nations. The Prime Minister, who spoke of personal diplomacy during the campaign, wasted no time in announcing he will leave for Scotland and the COP26 climate summit tomorrow. Japan has set a target of 2050 for becoming carbon neutral, and Kishida believes that despite much public opposition, nuclear energy should remain an option. James Aiken, TVB News.
The G20 summit closed in Rome, and leaders issued a final communique calling for meaningful and effective action to limit global warming. But it angered climate activists who said it did little to change the status quo. Matthew Bray reports.
Italian Prime Minister Mario Draghi, the chair of the G20 summit, hailed the final accord, saying that for the first time all G20 members have agreed on capping apparent global warming at the 1.5 degrees Celsius level.
So, what's the success of this summit? Well, G20 countries committed to keeping the 1.5 target within reach, with a series of immediate actions and medium-term commitments. We've decided to put coal behind us, starting with the international public commitment to eliminate finance for the new unabated coal, that all this finance will stop by 2021.
Although the G20 pledged to stop financing coal overseas, they set no timetable for phasing it out at home and watered down wording on another promise to reduce emissions of methane. The work done or not done by diplomats here leaves a huge amount of ground to be covered at the COP26 climate summit. The American president...
大家讓一讓，等一等，我哋就可以一齊快樂同行啦。
雙手接觸過沾滿病毒細菌嘅公用物件或設施，再掂眼、鼻或口，病原體就會乘虛而入。健康在你手，要預防傳染病，記住潔手7式，搓手20秒。沖洗後用乾淨毛巾或抹手紙抹乾。如果唔可以洗手，雙手又冇。
Again addressed the summit via video link. He urged the full implementation of the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change and the Paris Agreement. China itself, the world's largest CO2 emitter, has said 2060 as a target for net zero carbon emissions. The final communique also included a sentence looking forward to the Beijing Winter Olympics in 2022. Politico reported the US and Canada wanted certain wording removed. A compromise was reached. The climate debate now moves to Glasgow, where 2 days of speeches by leaders will continue before technical negotiators lock horns over the rules. Matthew Bray, TVB News.
British Prime Minister Boris Johnson opened the world leaders portion of the COP26 climate summit in Glasgow, Scotland. Johnson pulled no punches about the severity of the threat posed by climate change. He likened the danger to that faced by fictional British super spy James Bond in his films.
Welcome to COP. Welcome to Glasgow. And to Scotland, whose most globally famous fictional son is almost certainly a man called James Bond, who generally comes to the climax of his highly lucrative films strapped to a doomsday device, desperately trying to work out which coloured wire to pull to turn it off, while a red digital clock ticks down remorselessly to a detonation that will end human life as we know it. And we are in roughly the same position, my fellow global leaders, as James Bond today. Except that the tragedy is, this is not a movie. And the doomsday device is real. And the clock is ticking to the furious rhythm of hundreds of billions of pistons and turbines and furnaces and engines with which we are pumping carbon into the air faster and faster.
Back locally, a car crash on Bride's Pool Road in Taipo last night left 2 drivers dead. 5 others were injured, including a female passenger who remains in critical condition in hospital. A 23-year-old driver was arrested on suspicion of dangerous driving. Police were busy working overnight at the scene of the car crash, combing through the mangled mess from the 4-vehicle pileup. At around 10 p.m. last night, a Lamborghini sports car traveled along Bride's Pool Road towards Lokang. Near Fong Hang Family Walk, the sports car collided head-on with a private sedan. Another private vehicle following the sedan car failed to brake in time and rear-ended it. The 41-year-old driver of the sports car was certified dead at the scene. A 20-year-old driver injured in the collision was declared dead at hospital. The driver who didn't brake in time was arrested on suspicion of dangerous driving. There was an overturned motorcycle near the wreckage. The driver was thought to have lost control of his motorbike following the car crash on the road. But it's not confirmed yet if the motorcycle was involved in the accident. Police did not rule out the case involved illegal street racing. Police are appealing for witnesses of the crash to contact them at this number. And let's take a look at the weather before we go. It will be mainly cloudy with sunny periods. Temperatures will range between 24 and 27 degrees. And that's the news for tonight. Thank you for watching.